So I've just been sent the Moza Mini Me stabilizer for smartphones. This basically makes everything you film a little bit more cinematic. And yes, I was actually sent this to do a review, but this isn't paid, it's not an ad or not a sponsored video or anything, so this is my true and unbiased opinion of this gimbal. So if we start the video by looking at the specs of the gimbal itself, it weighs 543 grams with no phone attached. And when we put a phone onto it, it can take up to 300 grams. That's its max payload. So pretty much every phone on offer at the moment is going to weigh less than that. So it can pretty much hold any phone on the market at the moment. It has an internal battery, which takes about 3.5 hours to charge. So you can't actually swap in and out different batteries because it's internal, but that internal battery will give you about 10 hours of constant use, which is a really long time. You don't have to worry about it running out of battery midway through a filming day. And I believe that this gimbal is the only and possibly the first gimbal on the market at the moment that offers wireless charging to your phone. So if we double click that power button, it will now start wirelessly charging my phone with no cables attached, so I don't have to worry about my phone battery dying midway through the day. It's using the power of the gimbal to charge my phone whilst filming. But that being said, it will actually reduce the use time of the gimbal itself. So that 10 hours is going to be a lot less if we're going to be using that battery to charge our phone wirelessly. But having a wirelessly charging gimbal is pretty incredible and a massive positive, which really makes this gimbal stand out above any of the competitors. And if your phone doesn't support the wireless charging, it still has a 5-volt USB on it as well, so we can still charge our phone via a cable. It has a micro USB input on the back, and that is how we charge the actual gimbal itself. And fun fact, we can actually charge the device and use it at the same time, so we can plug this into an external battery pack and still use the gimbal. It has 4 mounting points on the actual gimbal itself for some accessories. We have one on the top and bottom of the actual clamp of the camera. We have one on the back here and one on the very bottom, so we can add things such as lights and microphones or attach it to a tripod. But one thing to point out, I did try to put a lightweight LED panel on the top of it here, and it was just too heavy and the gimbal just couldn't handle it. So we would probably have to put our lights to the extra attachments on the gimbal itself, not using the ones with the motors. And whilst we're talking about attachments, it does come with this tiny little monopod which we can put to the bottom of the gimbal here, so we can just put it down whenever we want to without it falling over. But this is quite plasticky and flimsy, but it does do the job. And the overall finish of the gimbal is quite plasticky, but it does feel quite comfortable in your hand. And if you're wondering, when you actually get the Moza Mini, it does come with this soft shell carry case. And inside, as you can see, it fits in there absolutely perfectly with this nice bit of soft foam as well. It's not actually cut out. You can probably put a few more accessories in here as well. As you can see, that little stand fits in there really nicely. And also it does come with a micro USB charger as well to actually charge the device. So yes, it is great that it comes with this soft shell carry case, but for me personally, I don't ever want to use one of these things. I want the actual device itself to be heavy duty and heavy wearing, that I can throw this into a camera bag without the need of putting an extra bit of protection around it. This has to keep up with me in my travel wants and my travel needs in my camera bag, because this is a lot smaller than holding it in one of these. I would have also liked it to have pat down flat with that motor at the bottom, but its strange design means it won't actually do that. We have to keep it flat by keeping the motor at the top, which does make the footprint slightly larger. Now when we turn the gimbal on, it automatically starts following our left and right hand movements, but not our up and down hand movements, so it's always staying perfectly level. But maybe you don't want to film it this way, you want to film for Snapchat or Instagram stories and you want it in the portrait position. All you have to do is just twist it 90 degrees and then it automatically updates, and now your phone is in that portrait position, so you can go between normal filming or portrait filming very simply. But maybe you want to film in the portrait position all the time, and to do that all we have to do is actually rebalance the phone in the portrait position, not into the landscape position. So we can take the phone off of the clamp, and then on the back of it we can actually undo that screw and then twist it 90 degrees. So when we put our phone into it now, we can turn on the gimbal, and there is the phone perfectly balanced in the portrait position. But there is a joystick on the gimbal we can actually use to pan the camera up or down, or say left or right. But there's also lots of different modes and settings we can use by using the buttons on the gimbal. But this is when things get slightly complicated, because there's long presses, there's double clicks, there's triple clicks, there's up, down, left, right. It kind of gets a little bit confusing. So I would recommend actually reading the instructions which it comes with. Now I know most people probably throw these out without even giving it any bit of interest or reading or anything, but I would recommend reading them and try getting in your head what each button does, whether it's a double click up, double click down, triple click right, triple click left, long press, hard press. You kind of need to understand it to actually really utilize the gimbal for all its different modes and settings. But I will put them in the description down below so you can go and read them and see which each click and button does, but there are a few different variations which I've been using more than others. Starting off with selfie mode, which is a triple click down. So 3 clicks later, it then spins the camera, the phone, 180 degrees, so now it's actually filming me. Let's say you've been using the joystick and the gimbal ends up in a very strange position. All you have to do is double click down and it automatically goes into its default position. And a really cool feature is Inception mode. So if we do a triple click up, the phone will then tilt and look directly up, but if we hold it at 90 degrees, it's now facing directly out. If we then use the joystick and we hold it to one side, the phone actually spins perfectly 360 degrees all the way around, so we can get these really cool tracking Inception type shots. Most other gimbals have these little stoppers, so it doesn't actually do a full 360 degree spin, where this one would just spin forever as long as the battery is gonna make it keep spinning. Now when it's in default mode, it does glide quite smoothly, but if we want to speed it up, we can go into sport mode, which is a double click right. But one thing I've noticed with sport mode is it doesn't really seem to do anything, and it works probably not as well as in the normal mode. It just gets a little bit lost. So if I wanted to whip it over here, it just doesn't seem to be very sporty. It does have its own app, which is called Moza Genie, and it does connect to the actual gimbal itself via Bluetooth, but one thing to remember is you have to connect it via the Bluetooth in the app itself, not in the settings of your phone. But occasionally this happens, and I'm trying to connect to the gimbal itself. It can see it, it knows the name of it, but it just doesn't connect. It just says select device. Okay, so I'll just power down, turn the gimbal back on, Bluetooth. Okay, this is annoying because it's still not connecting. A little time has now passed since that last clip, but I've managed to get my phone to connect to the gimbal, and now I can control my phone via the gimbal. So it does kind of show that there is a little bit of an issue somewhere with the connection between the gimbal and the phone. So once it's finally connected, we can actually use the buttons on the gimbal to control the app and to control the phone. So for instance, we can press the middle shutter button here. That would now make it start recording, and then once you've done your little bit of filming, we can press it again and it will stop recording. If we press the right hand button, it then goes into playback mode, so we can actually watch back the clip we just recorded. But one very important thing to mention here is the pictures and the videos actually save within the app itself, not onto your camera roll on your phone. So if you delete the app, you actually get rid of all of the pictures and video. And that is actually what happened to me when I reinstalled the app when it didn't actually connect via the Bluetooth. I actually lost all of the data I filmed out filming. So you actually have to manually save the pictures and the videos to the camera roll on your phone, which is slightly frustrating. We can use the wheel to zoom in or to zoom out on the video, or we can just press the downwards button once and it will automatically start zooming in, and then we can press it down again and then it will automatically start zooming out. There are a lot of different modes built into the actual app itself. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail into all of them, but you can do things such as panoramics, you can do time lapses, and also there is a professional mode, so we can go in and we can change the white balance or the ISO, so we can really hone in and get the exact kind of look what we want to get within the actual camera itself. There's also one of my favorites on here, which is advanced motion time lapse. So when we go onto the advanced motion time lapse mode in the app, we can actually set multiple points we actually want that time lapse to hit. So I'm just going to do one now. So we're going to go up to about here. We're going to start that there. We then move the time lapse to where we want it to end. We use the joystick. When we go into the next step, we select how often do we want the actual time lapse to take a picture. So we'll just go for half a second right now. Click next step. Then we can actually set the duration of the time lapse. How long do we want that time lapse to move for? So I'm just going to say 30 seconds and hit start. And now, as you can see, the gimbal is actually moving on itself over that 30-second duration I set from the 2 positions I just set. So it's actually creating me a moving time lapse. The first point you actually put into the motion time lapse is the last point it will end at. not the beginning, the last point you actually choose will be the beginning. It seems to do the opposite, so one thing to bear that in mind. I would also say navigating the menu system within the app is actually slightly complicated, having these strange kind of wheels on the side. And some of you might be wondering, can you use the native camera app built into the phone itself without using their actual app? Yes, you can, but it won't actually connect via Bluetooth. So all of the buttons won't actually connect back to the phone. So you can't start and stop recording by pressing it on here. You actually have to physically press start and stop recording on the phone itself, because it doesn't connect via Bluetooth, because the Bluetooth is connected via the app of the Moza Genie, not through the Bluetooth of your phone. Having the feature such as tracking in the app is very, very cool, that we can actually draw a box around something, and when we're walking around or if the subject is moving, it automatically tracks that subject. Is a cool thing, but only when it works. It kind of fails more often than it works, so if anything goes in front of it, or if there's a bit of a weird contrast, for instance if I was in a field or there was trees behind me, it seems to lose that tracking data and just completely goes off track. One feature built into the app which some of you might be interested in is the ability to live stream via the app, so we can actually walk around and get these really nice smooth cinematic shots whilst live streaming to, say, Facebook. And something kind of gimmicky, something which I wouldn't actually personally use, but some people might find it interesting. If we slide our fingers left to right and right to left across the screen, it cycles through different colored filters which goes over the top of the video, so it gives it that kind of Instagram filter look on top of the video. Okay, here we go. What is my final verdict of the Moza Mini Me? Is it worth it? Well, for the price of £99, I think it is a good buy. You do get a lot of stuff built into the actual gimbal itself and built into the app. There's lots of features. Yes, there are a few flaws with it, as we've seen in this video. Sometimes the tracking doesn't work properly. Sometimes the app doesn't connect to the gimbal, but for £99, I feel like it is a good piece of kit and it seems to do the job pretty well. If you're a type of person who goes on holiday and you only take your phone and you want to get some really nice looking footage, then something like this is probably a must, because it will make your footage look a hell of a lot better on your phones. But for me personally, being a filmmaker and a YouTuber, I don't normally film with my phone. But that's enough from me, and I really would love to hear what you think of this gimbal yourself. Let me know in the comment section down below what you think of this. Are you interested in one? Would you actually buy one? And if you are interested in buying one, I will link it in the description down below where you can go over to Amazon and pick up one of these yourself. And thank you again to Goodson for sending me the Moza Mini Me to do this review, and I really hope you guys have found this video interesting and informative. If you have, please give it a big fat thumbs up. I know it's been slightly longer than I anticipated, but I did really want to give this a thorough look. And if you are new, you can always hit that subscribe button and hit that bell to be notified when new videos come out onto this channel. And until next time, keep on creating.
Yeah.